So the Jake Tapper clip, I want to play you this really quick. He's getting beaten on social media, and rightfully so. I said this to you yesterday. We got on the air, and we were like, wow, the FBI caught the January 6th pipe bomber 5 years after he set the pipe bomb or dropped them all off, and the Biden administration told us they had no leads, and they had exhausted every end of the earth, and we were never actually going to find the guy.
That is a fact check false.
Well, it took these folks about 8 months in the FBI to bring this dirtbag Brian Cole Jr. to justice. Now, when the FBI was making the announcement yesterday, I said, man, this is a really precarious time in America. If you remember, if you were listening yesterday, I mean, most people weren't. Anyone who heard yesterday's show is probably not tuning in to today's show. I mean, let's be...
That's true. That is true.
Just giving myself a hard time. But understand, I said this, and I'll take credit for it. I said the greatest frustration of being in mass media in this day and age is understanding that everybody is always looking for an angle. Meaning we caught the January 6th pipe bomber, and I said, as we speak, every Democrat is sitting at home hoping he's some MAGA nutbag so they can be like, every Republican's a violent white supremacist. And I said, of course, a lot of Republicans are hoping there's some type of affiliation to the deep state that will allow us to prove that January 6th was a coup and it was all an inside job and they set up Trump just like the Russian collusion, you know.
It was made up by these sick people.
But I said, you know, sometimes where this show is really valuable, where you could all really benefit, is from just understanding that the political angle is oftentimes overshadowing a much larger and consequential angle. Meaning while everyone's like, well, I hope we can blame the Democrats. I hope we can blame the Republicans. Lost in the conversation is a guy tried to blow up all of us. When you set up a pipe bomb in multiple locations in D.C., you're not doing it knowing full well who it's going to blow up. It's outside of DNC headquarters, outside of RNC headquarters, it's the Capitol. And the fact remains, the bigger issue here is not whether you can point a finger at a political party, but it's whether we can stop people from setting up pipe bombs all over the country.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right. And you're always right.
And I said right on the air, hey, it's your radio buddy, community college graduate Jimmy Fala. I know nothing. I'm not self-deprecating. I just drove around in a taxi. I kind of somewhat understand human nature, but I am here to help. I am bargaining with you in good faith. I have a child. I have a wife. I have a dog. I have 2 cats. We rescued them from a Chinese restaurant. And
what the hell did you just say?
I'm being silly. But the point is, okay, even on a silly show like this, there's a lot of value in just having perspective and restraint. Everything doesn't have to have an angle. And you understand, Jake Tapper went on the air yesterday and said the black January 6th bomber was a white guy. And a lot of people are going, well, his defense, he didn't know the guy was a black guy at the time. Exactly. That's why you don't report the race.
Oh, wow.
But why did he report the race? Because he wanted it to be true. He wanted the confirmation bias. He wanted so badly to blame MAGA and white people and say that's the real threat in this country, not the people shooting the National Guard or trafficking deadly fentanyl into the country. No, it's the white man. And that's what they wanted to do. Do you understand? And that's why it made the headline. But you understand this again and again and again. He is now a laughingstock. It's not the first time we've seen this sort of thing happen. But what is the teachable moment? I'm not here to dunk on Jake Tapper, as embarrassing as it is. I'm here to remind you that we have stories like this, sadly, in this day and age. And the next time we have one that presents itself, you don't need an angle. Just maybe take a step back and go, how can we stop this stuff? This is garbage. We got guys setting up pipe bombs. That should be the focus today. Not, well, I can't wait to blame this party. But that's where we are. And that's why Jake Tapper is on the air saying this about a black man. Clip 1.
Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. After nearly 5 years of investigation, the FBI finally announced that they had arrested a suspect accused of planting pipe bombs near the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters the night before the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction by means of explosion.
Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
God. But that's only possible if you're on TV reporting not what you know to be true, but what you want to be true.
CNN is the worst.
Amen. And I'm just, again, as much fun as we're having with this, I don't doubt I'm going to talk about it on my Saturday night TV show tomorrow night. I'm sure I will. Okay, but the teachable moment occurs right here on the radio. Sometimes there's not a side. Okay, there's not a side. If a guy is indiscriminately setting up pipe bombs, there's only one side, which is we got to get this guy. We got to stop people who will kill us, because that pipe bomb doesn't go off and just only affect Republicans. It doesn't go off and only affect Democrats. It affects anybody who's walking down the street when it goes off. Brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, daughters, kids, whatever the heck you are. Okay, Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, none of it matters. The point is you're dead. So the fact that they got on the air yesterday, they didn't have confirmation. And again, that's not an excuse. It's like last week. Do you remember when Jasmine Crockett tried to get on TV? And she said, well, look at all these Republicans that took money from Jeffrey Epstein. And then it turned out to be a different Jeffrey Epstein.
Some of these women, they're so stupid.
But what did she say when she was on TV? She goes, well, we only had 20 minutes to do the research. So at the time, that's why I didn't say it was the Jeffrey Epstein. All I said is it was the Jeffrey Epstein. I mean,
shut up.
That's what she said. I didn't say it was the. Even though we were having a Jeffrey Epstein hearing, I just said it was
That is absolutely the most ridiculous excuse I have ever heard in my entire career as a disciplinarian.
But again, she tried to defend it and saying, well, we only had 20 minutes, so there was no way to be entirely sure. Exactly. If you're not entirely sure, you shut your mouth.
Bingo.
But that's where we are in this country. That's why you have the Jake Tapper thing. And here, to be honest with you, I'm in a good mood. It's a great day. We caught the pipe bomber. We had a lot of good economic news this week. They're investing in little kids. They're making cars more affordable, opening up the market, changing the fuel efficiency standards. That's a big damn deal. They're blowing up terrorists. Oh, by the way, we spent Monday through Thursday talking about Pete Hegseth blowing up drug boats. But then, of course, the declassified report completely exonerated him. And now you don't hear a word. It's a war crime. It's a war crime. You guys understand? It's a war crime. And now what do you hear? Nothing.
The media is a bunch of losers.
Okay, and you understand. That's the bigger issue here, is that every single person that got on your TV this week and reported on a boat strike was doing so from an angle of, I hope this hurts Republicans. Okay, and when you report, when you open your mouth in search of an angle, like you're trying to manufacture an angle, you're coming from a place of emotion. And I say this to you all the time, okay? Politics have gotten so emotional in this country that it's denying people self-awareness. Do you know when you're in a place of anger, you don't actually take that extra step to go, hey, do I sound stupid? Am I saying something to this person I'm going to regret? Am I going to need to take this back someday? Self-awareness. You don't have it in the heat of the moment, and that's why we're always trying to lower the temperature, because everybody's nuts or a bag of cats. Listen to this idiot, Adam Smith, telling you narco-terrorists aren't a threat. They've literally killed 300,000 people this year. I believe we have different definitions of threat, but here it is, clip 21.
When you're in the middle of an insurgency with roadside bombs and car bombs and all of that, even in the aftermath of the Afghanistan pullout, when we had that suicide bomber kill 13 service members and hundreds of people in Kabul, and we did that strike against a car that we thought was a threat that turned out not to be a threat, I have some sympathy for that. But people on a boat in the middle of the Caribbean carrying cocaine are not a direct threat to the lives of our service members or Americans.
Oh, man.
You don't have a clue.
Guys, they killed 300,000 people last year. So you're now so emotional about politics that you're on TV asking the American voter to feel bad, not for the 300,000 kids who got poisoned by fentanyl, but the actual dirtbags, the narco-terrorists trafficking them into the country. And that's where emotion denies you reason. And that's why Jake Tapper is on TV in front of the whole entire world telling us the bomber was white. I mean, really think about that, because the next time it might not be Jake Tapper wearing the clown shoes. It might be you.
And I'm out here in the real world, and I know what's right or wrong or bullshit.
The Ricky Henderson of leadoff guests, Paul Mauro from opsdesk.org, Fox News contributor in the house. The crowd goes wild. Hey, man.
Hey, what's going on?
Is that fair? Is that a fair intro? Do you consider yourself the Ricky Henderson of leadoff guests? He's a Hall of Fame leadoff guy.
All I can say is they told me that Rich Scioli was hosting today.
Good job.
Get him out of here.
Oh, that's enough. Rich Scioli on WPHT, by the way.
Yeah, no, he's doing great. I love Rich.
He's doing a fantastic job. And the one thing I would say is I consider it high praise to call you Ricky Henderson.
I remember him.
Two best Yankee leadoff hitters of all time are Ricky Henderson and Mickey Rivers. I don't know if you know this about Mickey Rivers. So Mickey Rivers had a proclivity for gambling on horses.
I think I did know that.
There's a very famous story in the George Steinbrenner book because Mrs. Rivers had demanded that Steinbrenner basically give her direct deposit. We don't want this guy getting checks. He cashes them. He goes to the horse track. So apparently at one point in like 1976, everyone in the Yankee Stadium offices were, I guess, awoken to the sound of a woman bashing windshields with a golf club. And it was Mrs. Rivers, who apparently had lost another exacta and wasn't happy about it.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
That's great. And that argues he probably knew some gentleman who would take his bets on sports as well.
You're going to tell me there was a guy downtown taking bets off the books?
Yeah, I think a member of a certain fraternal organization.
Fast forward a couple of years, he was sitting in an NBA poker game with Ty Kidd.
Exactly right.
Well, they caught the perp in that one, as they did with the January 6th pipe bomber. Now, I was making a point at the top of the show today that built on a point I made yesterday. I said, sometimes when something like this happens, it's very important to maintain perspective. I know there's like this inertia to hope you can blame one side for this.
Yeah.
You know, let's hope it's some MAGA white supremacist guy, or let's hope it's some deep state guy, whatever the case may
Right.
be. And you kind of obscure the larger story, that a guy was setting up pipe bombs that could have killed people in either party. So if we were to start there, I think we agree that it's just an addition by subtraction that they got this guy off the streets, correct?
Oh, yeah, of course. And they know a lot more about him than they're telling us.
Yeah.
I mean, very, very clearly. Aside from all the backgrounding that you would normally do post-arrest, now you got him, you grabbed the computers and everything else. What they almost certainly did here, and I've had this circumstance, is, okay, look, we got him. This is definitely him. We have probable cause to arrest. And then there's PC and then there's PC. As time goes on, you build it more. You get to a point where you say, okay, this guy is not only arrestable, he's arrestable with a capital A. So we definitely can take him. Do we want to? Now, there's some tension in that, all right? Because you can say, okay, look, we'll leave him out there, but God forbid you own him now. God forbid he does something else or he flees. You had him. You already have the, the complaint written up, and it turns out he went to Brazil.
Yeah.
And they now you can't get him back. So that's a problem. So the tension there is, how long do you leave him out and learn as much about him as you can and surveil him, risk taking a burn where he sees you and then maybe flees, versus let's just take him right now. Because you want to map his network. You want to see it. 10 more like him that are planning other things.
Yeah, that's a great point. Paul Mauro's here, Fox News contributor, founder of opsdesk.org. From what I watched in the interviews yesterday, Judge Jeanine was on TV saying he had no priors. He didn't have a big social network.
Yeah.
Appeared to have, probably a little bit of an internet history, I guess.
Yeah.
But I know obviously there's a lot of people saying it took 4 years because the last administration wasn't interested in getting them. I don't know that to be true, but do you have any inklings of that?
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing about this arrest is that it is undeniable that it was solvable.
Yeah.
And the analogy I've been using, because everybody knows the case, is the Gilgo murders, right? I mean, 10 years ago, here's a guy who the bodies were discovered. They had everything back then. In fact, it was fresher then in terms of the digital information, the phone stuff and everything else. They had it 10 years ago, but they didn't solve it. Now you get fresh eyes come in 10 years later when the case is a cold case.
Yeah.
And my understanding is in the Gilgo case, a female analyst from the New York State Police had Rex Uhrman's name within 6 weeks.
Wow.
And they had never solved it in 10 years because the case had remained open. So my point is, it's very hard to argue with the idea that you kind of blew it when you consider the FBI came in. Hang on a second. Excuse me, I'm choking over here. The FBI came in. They had to stand up a whole new FBI on the new administration, and then in less than, call it 7-8 months, because figure a month just to set up the offices.
Yeah.
You know, they got them. So it's very hard, just in an empirical sense, to say, oh, no, the Chris Wray team was on point. They just didn't get the break they needed or whatever. When you consider that they did it in 8 months, that tells me that somebody initially blew it.
Okay, good point. We're talking to Paul Mauro about this, and we now know he has been apprehended. And at the very least, everyone listening around the country right now has an opportunity to shake their head yes when I say that the FBI definitely knew more about his background than Jake Tapper did before he went on the air and said this. It's clip 1.
Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. After nearly 5 years of investigation, the FBI finally announced that they had arrested a suspect accused of planting pipe bombs near the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters the night before the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting
Ouch.
A 30-year-old white man. Listen, I don't know what the backstory is on him doing that, but he obviously didn't know it was a black man.
Yeah.
Which means you don't need to be reporting anything.
Exactly. And, you know, I would say two things to this. First of all, these mistakes, and there's been a couple of these lately, they always go one way.
Of course.
Right? It seems like, you know, you never say the reverse. So that's a little bit of a tell right there. But the other thing is this. God help us if that had happened on Fox News.
Yeah. Oh, are you kidding me right
Because
now?
it would have been the shortest distance between 2 points of all time before the internet exploded saying you saw a very fancy house and you assumed that only a white guy could have that house. You racist network.
How dare you?
Exactly. That's what would have happened.
We'd be on trial right now.
That's right. We'd be on a chain gang.
But the teachable moment here for a lot of people, and this takes me back a week to Jasmine Crockett getting on the House floor and saying everybody took money from Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
Is she was actually on CNN. To their credit, they pressed her on it, but she said, well, we only had 20 minutes. Yeah. That's not an excuse. That means you don't report it.
Of course. You know what? The problem for her is that what she's used to is the speech and debate clause that covers Congress, which means you can essentially say any stupidity you want. And because I had to face her. I went down, you and I talked about it. I had to go testify in Congress, and she was there.
Yeah.
She barely looked up. She just, whenever it came to her term, she read an article into the record, and that was it. I didn't get the sense of somebody who was deep diving into the issues. Let's just say that.
Well, it's better than some of the congresswomen that were getting their questions from Epstein in real time, as we now know. I mean, what a mess that is.
Yeah, really was. And, you know, when you consider the fact that he had this island, and he was apparently buying another one, that was, according to all the reporting, like completely out of compliance, uninspected, no environmental reviews. He's digging tunnels. He's doing this. He's doing that. And she was the person who ran the place, you know, and you got to imagine she must have been there a number of times.
She had to know something.
She had to know something, but, you know, that question will never be asked. Exactly.
Listen, man, you know, everybody's got an angle. Okay, the reason I'm focused on this one today is it's one of these things for me where I guess in time when it goes to trial, we'll learn more. But it is, again, it's such a teachable moment for Americans. I take this back to the drug boats just the same. There's such a thing as common cause. That people are being denied right now. You know, you might not like a video of a boat getting blown up on TV, but the 10 guys on that boat are never going to be worth as much as the 300,000 kids who die of fentanyl.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's good to see us fighting the correct battles, even if we're not all on board of fighting them. But if you noticed that the blown up boat story went away pretty quick, and it has nothing to do with the pipe bomber being caught.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the analogy I use for that is that, you know, just consider the following. Okay, there is a boat sailing into New York Harbor with a dirty bomb on it.
Yeah.
We have solid intel.
Yeah.
President has to act. Does the president have the right under Article 2, the second article of the Constitution, which lays out presidential powers, which gives him plenary police powers in the federal realm? Does the president have the power to say, blast that boat before it gets to New York Harbor and kills a couple 100,000 people with radiation.
Yeah.
And of course he does. That's why he has that. And the issue is imminence.
Yes.
If it is imminent, the president can just act. And let's remember something. We haven't had a declared war that we fought since World War II.
It's crazy.
Vietnam, Korea, all the stuff in the Middle East, all of those things are done on workarounds, essentially, without going into them all. And so even Korea was a UN police action, which was BS. Of course, we're the only ones who could have done it at that point in time. So the point is that this stuff has been ignored in the breach. And if the Trump administration can articulate, which will happen at some point here, here's how it's going to happen. Somebody's going to get grabbed.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, I can't be a narco-terrorist because I don't fit the federal definition of terrorism. I'm just a drug dealer. Now, it's a novel defense, but that's really it. You're not doing it for ideological reasons. Terrorism, federally defined, is for ideological reasons.
Yes.
No, these guys are profit motive.
Of course.
So they actually have a case there.
Yeah.
And you could argue against the idea that they're narco-terrorists. And if you take narco-terrorism away, then you lose the ability to do some of the stuff we're doing.
Yeah.
That's the way it'll go. But we haven't hit that yet. And at this point, if you say, hey, look, they're bringing in stuff akin to a dirty bomb that I can demonstrate to you is going to kill 75 to 100,000 Americans a year by poisoning, not overdoses.
Yeah, poison.
Poisonings and other drugs.
Yeah.
I'm taking those boats out. I don't see too many people arguing about that.
Amen. Addition by subtraction. That's why you read opsdesk.org every day, not just because he comes on the air and insults me. And then we like that. We like that as much as anything. But the great Paul Mauro.
I insult you even off the air. You should know. You don't even have to be there. I mean, it's my favorite pastime around my house.
It's very hostile. This is like the movie Heat when De Niro and Pacino couldn't be on the set at the same time. This is why. So I'll see you in the split screen. Good stuff. As I was telling people yesterday, okay, I am the most high-functioning white trash you're ever going to meet, okay?
I admire your honesty.
I mean, I'm saying that, okay? I'm not trying to self-deprecate, okay? I am a hot mess, and we get it done every day on the show with a lot of help from you. I'm going to be honest, a lot of help from you, the listener, who tune into the show day in and day out. But what we're going to do the rest of the way is you're going to hear from Paul Mauro, retired NYPD inspector. He's going to give us like the real scoop on what went on with this dirtbag pipe bomber. Danny Polishuk is coming by to talk social media. And Lincoln, we got some playground politics because it's so crazy to me. But selfishly, this has been one of my favorite weeks in broadcasting, maybe ever. I don't know that I've ever been happier doing a week of radio than this week because everything I've been doing with my kid is overlapping with this week's news cycle. So selfishly, okay, I've been talking to my kid about, hey, you got to think now, I know you're 17, you just turned 17. I said, it's impossible to imagine there's going to be a 60-year-old or an 80-year-old you. I said, but if you start thinking now about saving money or your birthday money, whatever you get your hands on, you're really going to be better off in the long run. And it's so perfectly overlapped with we get off the plane from Las Vegas and Trump announces that he's starting these $1,000 savings accounts for every little kid. Yeah, it's a big deal. It is a really big damn deal, okay? $1,000. And if your parents supplement it, by the time you're 17, you're going to have about $170,000, like for real. And if you continue to invest at, say, $100 a week, you'll turn 60 and have $2 million to your name. And again, this is not for rich people. This is for people like me. Do you know how I bought a house? I've only owned my house, but 7 years ago. I had like 5 different little writing jobs. I was driving a cab and doing comedy at night, and I was able to save a little bit from all of them and put the money together. I didn't have a single job that paid me good money. I just had a lot of different little jobs that added up to some money. And the point is, there's no rule that you, the person listening to this right now, you might make $23,000 a year for all I know, okay? I mean, don't make that your opening line in the nightclub if you're going out tonight. You might want to lie and say you make 24.6. I don't know. But the point is, whatever the case, maybe it does not matter. It's not what you make, it's what you spend. And if you think proactively, it really makes a difference. And the fact that I get to say that to my kid on a plane home and then get in the car on the way back from the airport and hear the president talk, and I was like, oh, this is great because it's like right in my emotional wheelhouse. And then what happened second? Wow, Lincoln's trying to get a car. He's taking his road test on Tuesday. And if he passes, he's got to get his first car. So we've been talking about that. And the president's been talking about making the interest deductible, making, greater access to affordable cars. He just signed this Tiny Car Act earlier today around 10 a.m. this morning, which is going to allow places like Toyota and Honda to put their affordable, I don't know if you'd call them SUVs, like the Toyota Hilux looks like a tiny pickup truck, but it's like a $20,000 truck. So that's a big deal. And one of the reasons cars have been so unaffordable is because of this really woke green agenda.
Everything woke turns to
As I said earlier, okay, the automobile manufacturers have been praising Trump for ending the EV mandate. And it's not because Ford doesn't care about climate change. You don't have to go throw a can of soup at their headquarters or tar yourself to their driveway to obstruct them like all the white kids do if your parents are rich enough to let you contribute nothing to the world. Climate change. I mean, if you really wanted to talk about white privilege, it's climate protesters. You're never going to go to a climate rally and see anything but a rich white kid, like 99.9%. It's no different than the trans movement. I'm not trying to be controversial, but only really rich kids from liberal families wind up trying to transition.
He's a lousy dad, but he's right.
It's just reality. You got to have the money. You got to have a lot of money. Oh, guys, it's really expensive. I told you this story yesterday. When I was 12, I didn't want to ask for new roller skates. Can you imagine 12-year-old me asking my parents for a new set of breasts? Hey, I know you said the roller skates for $70 I couldn't have, but what do you think about an $83,000 surgery to make me a woman? I'm just telling you, that's, the response I would have got from my dad is,
I'll break you in half like a little toothpick.
I don't even know that he would have said it. I think he would have just did it, and I would have been better off in the long run. But the point is, okay, all of these privileged, stupid side debates take a backseat to real, tangible improvements in the quality of life. Ford is not saying EVs are bad. They're not saying don't drive one if you got an F-150 Lightning. It's a badass truck. We got one somewhere in my family. I'm not going to name names. It ain't my immediate family, but the point is, okay, it's a badass truck. I've been in it. It's fast as hell. I don't like disparage it. I'm just telling you the reason government mandates on manufacturers are incorrect is when you force them to build a certain number of cars, you're now making them do so independently of what the market wants.
He knows what he's talking about.
So they're not praising Trump because they don't like EVs. They're praising Trump because in getting rid of the mandate, they can build next year the amount of EVs they expect to sell, give or take a few. But if you tell them to build 2 million EVs and people only buy 100,000,
this could be a problem.
It's a big problem. And what ultimately happens? They lose money on the EVs they don't sell, and they pass the cost loss into their more affordable sectors of cars. So what might have been a $20,000 car is a $25,000 car because nobody would buy their electric hunk of junk.
Thanks, big government weenuses. And
I'm not saying they're all hunk of junk. There's a lot of them are great cars. Oh, they're phenomenal. I'm not here to bash them. But it's a known fact that 89% of electric car owners have a second vehicle in the home. Meaning if you're buying an electric car, it's because you're doing all right in life. You got a lot of money. Great. Okay, that's not a bad thing. That's what we all strive for. The American dream. The streets are paved with gold. That whole thing. Okay, so I'm not here to disparage you, but the point is the average person who buys one thinks they're cool, might have a lot of money and feel a little self-conscious about the environment. Are they helping the environment?
Not even close.
No, because your electric car requires us to use child labor to strip mine the earth in Africa. And then when you get the car built and the battery has the rare earth minerals in it, what's the first thing you do to charge it? You plug it into the power grid, which runs on fossil fuels. So you're not actually doing anything in the name of helping the environment. You're not saving money on gas. That's why we hated Pete Buttigieg when the fuel crisis was out of control. And he's like, this is why we're building more electric cars.
Pete Buttigieg is pathetic.
Is he ever? Because here's a newsflash, guys. If you're worried about $4 gas or $5 gas, you probably don't have $80,000 sitting around in your freaking bank account right now.
I think he's got a point.
Yeah, and the point is they're all full of So when I see a good day, like the one we're embarking upon today, where we caught the pipe bomber, inflation's down, the cars are going to be a little more affordable, they're forcing us to invest in the kids. I understand some people just had a kid, and he's born outside of this window. But the bigger win here is that we're starting a national conversation about financial literacy that we should have been having every day for the last 100 years. Okay, straight up. We all do home ec. Hey, make some mac and cheese. I love that class. Mrs. Pacifico in division, she was great. She got me suspended once for telling a dirty joke, but I forgive Mrs. Pacifico. She's a great teacher. Okay, I had Mrs. Hennessy back in 6th and 7th grade. Mrs. Hennessy, we learned how to sew, and we cooked all kinds of funky food, and the love was great. We made hobo lasagna. It was lasagna noodles, but to save money, she showed us how you could make it with cottage cheese. And make it. It's weird because on paper it might not sound like good Italian lasagna. I know if you're like a bon vivant chef listening on WOR somewhere in Brooklyn or Staten Island right now, you're like, are you kidding me? Hey, Anthony, go get my bat. I got your chef right here, pal. I understand. But the point is, it was a fun way to cook. But in none of those classes did they task those brilliant teachers who we truly had great relationships with talking to us about running a home. They just taught you how to eat, which is good. You need to do it, unless you work in TV, in which case they're constantly telling you not to. I mean, it's different when you make it in TV. It's totally different.
Put that cookie down now! Okay,
but back in home ec, you should learn how to make that cookie, and while you're picking it up, you should pick up a checkbook and learn how to balance it. And that's my, for real, resolute hope this week is that we're spending a lot of time on it, and that's why I'm spending a lot of time on it. Some of you guys listening might be like, hey, I got money. I worked my ass off. I got a pension. I did whatever. Well, here's a news flash. Not a lot of people do. And if you want to really help the world, you truly want to make a tangible improvement in the lives of strangers, you have these greater good conversations that cost you nothing. Nothing. Can you donate to charity and help the world? Yeah, and we all do in some capacity. Okay, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, but a real pay it forward donation is to make sure the people around you are financially literate. Because the poorest guy can have $1 million when he's 60 if he just puts $100 away every week from the time he's a teenager until then. And he didn't need to make $200,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 a year to be a guy with $2 million in the bank. In fact, a lot of guys who make $2 million don't wind up with any money in the bank because they spend more than they make. How many people do you know like that? I live in New York City. Do you know what the average cost of an apartment is in New York City right now? Like a studio apartment, it's like $1 million. So imagine that. You're living in a 7 by 10 foot room, a 10 by 12 foot room. Okay, you make $1 million a year, but you bought a studio and you have no money. It's bananas. So it's really not about what you make. It's about how smart you are with it. You think of yourself in life, and this is my favorite thing about being a cab driver, is we really got to play Moneyball. When Lincoln was born, we didn't have health insurance. She got laid off like a month before he was born. What are you going to do? I was driving a cab, and you really had to, play as a team at Moneyball to win in life. Jenny made cloth diapers. Like she actually sewed cloth diapers. And the diaper liners you'd throw in there would go in the garbage, and then you'd throw the cloth diapers. They were Velcroed onto your kid. You'd throw them in the wash. So she had to make like 40 or 50 of them because it's a high turnover rate when you got a newborn baby. But the point is we were there. Like we weren't buying diapers, yo. So whatever, as poor as you might be, as bad as life is kicking you in the nuts right now, I'm sitting here on the other side of this radio speaker telling you, you can do it. But the way to do it is to have those conversations now about what you want life to look at down the road. And you can do that. You can play the role in that. So that selfishly made me happy. What else made me happy? I'll give you a little more because so much happened in politics this week that I kind of laughed my ass off at when we were on the air. Did you guys catch Gavin Newsom getting trashed at the New York Times summit? That was funny. Did you catch Stephen A. Smith roughing up The View? Because I thought that was fun.
The View was awful.
And I'll give you one more because this made me laugh. I'll play that stuff later because I'm going to play it on my TV show this weekend. But Delia Cruz goes on the House floor. She said the biggest threat to America right now is ICE agents.
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
Fair question to ask. This is like, it's weird how some of the most substantive takes are the ones that make me laugh the hardest as a comedian. Listen to this one, clip 32.
The American people's anger and tolerance of DHS violations of our rights, that's what's the result of DHS unlawful, unaccountable, unconstitutional actions, which put the American people and our liberties at risk every day. Let me be very clear. The Department of Homeland Security, you can quote me on that, is the single biggest threat to public safety right now.
Oh, man.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Playing that drop for Paul Gleiser in Texas. I know he's a fan. But imagine saying the biggest single threat to our public safety right now okay, is ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. I really want you to wrap your head around this. You know how I always say it's the dumbest time to be alive? Really, really, really wrap your head around it. Raise your hand if you were alive for September 11th. Bang. Okay, good. Just doing a little head count here. Okay, yeah, a bunch of you. Okay, a lot of you. We got some youngsters in the audience. I mean, most of them are women Mikey's hitting on, but stick with me. Okay, if you were alive on September 11th, you understand that if someone would have told us that in 20 years, we'd have a president that let 20 million people come into the country unchecked. And that's the estimate. The estimate is somewhere between 12 and 20 million. So let's say it's 12 million. If somebody would have told you 12 million people came into this country unchecked, the president let them in from countries that flat out hate America. There were 1,000 known members of the terror watch list.
He should be behind bars.
They would arrest the president. If you would have told them, New Yorkers, and you would have told Americans in the aftermath of September 11th, any American in any state, then no, we're going to let in 1,000 known terrorists. We're going to let in 12 million people that we just don't know who the hell they are because we're not vetting them properly. Okay, if someone would have told you that back in 2001, you would have signed a petition to hang that person. Okay, straight up. And I'm not saying that to incite violence, and there's never going to be an answer. The answer in this country, you're lucky, is at the ballot box, and it's always going to be. But understand, when she gets out on the House floor as an elected member of Congress and tells us the biggest threat our country is facing is the people giving the terrorists a hard time, the people keeping out the terrorists.
Such an idiot.
Okay, and you don't have to be smart to know she's an idiot. You just got to be honest. And unfortunately, there's nobody left in politics who wants to be.